pointed out. Well, let's talk about Vodafone. Now, sources are telling us that Vodafone Idea has cautioned the government that it can't operate beyond FY26 without more support. I mean, give us money, otherwise, FY26 is the outer limit. Ashmit is here with what he's picking up. Ashmit, over to you.
Well, just yesterday, we were the first to report that Vodafone Idea has moved a fresh application in the court seeking relief on account of the AGR burden. Now what we're picking up, they've sought a waiver of the interest as well as the penalty component. Now what we're picking up is that before moving the court, they had thrown a last throw of the dice with the government. They had written a letter to the government whereby they had clarified that if the government doesn't step up and grant relief, it could result in the company going into insolvency before the NCLT, and that it's going to be difficult for the company to move ahead as far as beyond FY26 is concerned. That's the line in the sand that Vodafone Idea appears to have drawn as far as the government is concerned. Now, bear in mind, the argument that Vodafone Idea has put forth in that letter is that the government is now a partner. Post the equity conversion, it holds nearly 49% of stake as far as this company is concerned, and that entire stake's value will be brought to nil if this company is pushed into insolvency. Also going on to say that the government is looking to recover 1.15 lakh crore rupees in spectrum dues. All of that, again, will not fructify if the company, Vodafone Idea, goes into insolvency, if it cannot continue beyond FY26. And furthermore, Vodafone Idea argues that this will have a cascading impact. There are over 200 million customers that Vodafone Idea has, and that there will be a spillover effect as far as the broader digital aspirations of the country are concerned. And going on to say that they're facing difficulties, that despite pumping in as much as 26,000 crore rupees from a promoter standpoint, despite the government's equity conversion, the banks are not stepping up. The banks are not giving them debt. The banks are not supporting them. And that is leading to a huge crisis in terms of management and in terms of future operations of Vodafone Idea. And it is on that count that they are making a renewed push before the highest court of the country, before the Supreme Court, for a waiver of the interest as well as the penalty component. This, they believe, will help turn the tide, will help turn things around for Vodafone Idea. But all of it, clearly from Vodafone Idea's submissions in the court to their conversations with the government, one aspect is clear, that the ship will not set sail, it will not move forward without government support. That's a clear message coming in from Vodafone Idea.
Thank you very much for that. I guess what will help Vodafone Idea is the bank funding. They've been looking to raise 25,000 crore rupees. And despite the promoters infusing money, the large QIP funding infusion that they did last year, and even the spectrum dues getting converted into the equity and the government owning 49% now, the banks have been reluctant to lend that 20,000 crore to Vodafone Idea. So that is something. So maybe in terms of a government support, the government can nudge, the banks to go ahead and lend that 20,000. And second would be, I think, Supreme Court relief. In the past, the Supreme Court, the Apex Court, had rejected all applications regarding any sort of an AGR relief. But now that we have a new Chief Justice, Mr. Govt, I think once again, these shock and awe kind of statements might nudge the Supreme Court to grant that much needed relief for Vodafone Idea. If it doesn't come through, as Vodafone Idea says, it might just go under.
So, yeah, it's very, very interesting because basically Vodafone Idea has thrown the ball into the government's court, saying either you help us with additional
the government can't do anything. They already they have 49%.
Precisely.
So they can't infuse further money. They don't want to convert more dues into equity and then make it a PSU.
Exactly.
They want it to remain as a private entity.
Exactly. So the question is, who is going to bring in the funding?
It's the banks.
Whether it's additional equity funding or debt funding, and debt funding is not coming.
Debt funding is not coming. So it's either the banks or then some sort of a Supreme Court relief.